Here's one of the things that one of the people that I look up to the most taught me in my life. That person is my father. My father, who is an immigrant dad, taught me so much when it comes to wealth and when it comes to being an entrepreneur, when it comes to business. Not through telling me, but more than anything, because my dad is not super communicative, but he taught me these things through actions. When I look back at the story of my father and the fact that he came to this country with zero English, with zero connections, zero network, with no safety net, economically speaking, he built an entire mechanic shop with his bare hands. He started his whole journey here being an immigrant that knew about mechanics and had to figure out how to get a job somewhere. He walked to mechanic shops around the area trying to get a job, and it wasn't until he fixed a problem that a shop couldn't fix that he was able to get a job. Showing up and being there every single time and being there at the right time, at the right place, at the right shop to find that job is how his journey started in the United States. Eventually, he planted a mechanic shop and he was able to do all of this with his bare hands. He was able to learn a ton of things by turning wrenches, by getting his hands full of oil, by burning himself, and by hitting himself a lot of times. And me personally, he taught me so much when he forced me, realistically speaking, to go into the shop and work with him when I was 16 years old. And I'm not the only person he did it with. He also did it with my brothers. And one of the things that we were able to learn, but in my story specifically, I was able to learn, was that if I wanted to accomplish anything in life, I needed to be willing to put in the work. That being someone that was able to be born in this country is not a reason for me to be able to accomplish all the things automatically that I want. I will not accomplish the things I want by simply having the entitlement of saying, oh, I was born here, not like my family was necessarily. I was never going to be able to accomplish the goals that I want because of the fact that I was a United States citizen. No, impossible. The fact of the matter is that I was able to accomplish and I'm able to accomplish the things that I want to get to, not because of anything else, but because of the same thing that my father had. Grinding, putting in the work every single time, showing up. And I know I've talked a ton about this, but the fact of the matter is that I'm not able to get that free. And I wasn't able to get that free at 23 years old because of the fact that I just happened to bump into it. My father didn't apply a mechanic shop because he happened to bump into it. People like Warren Buffett weren't able to get to where they get to by just bumping into it. The biggest person that you know, economically speaking, the person that has the most wealth and most accomplishments in their lives aren't able to get to what they get to because they just bump into it. They're able to get to where they get to because they showed up, because they were there every single time. And one of the things that I was able to learn personally from working with my father, and at the year of age of 16, starting my first job with my father at the shop, and many times hitting my hands with a hammer or burning myself or getting my hands a little full of different chemicals of a car. One of the things that I was able to learn about these things is that if you're not willing to put in the work, then don't expect to accomplish the things you want. That was one of the greatest things my father was able to give me when he taught me to go into work outside of his story, his testimony, his example. When I go back to the age of 16, I can still smell it. I can still see the hands of grease on my hands, the hands of oil, the smell of all of those chemicals in my hands. I can still hear the drill going actively being used, and the smell of the dust, the smell of all the things that the cars release. But not only that, one of the things that's so vivid in my head was that I would work with my father during summer breaks. Of course, I was still in high school at the age of 16. And one of the things I remember working there summer breaks was the sweat of this shop. Because my dad didn't have the fanciest of shops. He didn't have no dealership that had AC and the best system for me to be able to be cool in the shop. No, the shop was open gated and was relying on the heat of outside to be able to hopefully cool us down. And in the summer heat, I think everyone that's here could know that that shop And the people that worked in it were sweaty beasts. I think even the shop was sweating. So I remember that so vividly. And when I think back on that, and when I think back on the fact that my dad has been doing this for more than, I think, almost 2 decades now, for me to go back and think about these things, I realized one thing. I realized that if I want to be able to do something with this business that I'm starting, if I want to be able to do anything in my life, I have to be willing to show up time after time, no matter how much I dread. But better said, especially when I dread those days that I'm going to have to continue showing up. When I dreaded those days that I was going to sweat, when my father dreaded those mornings when he was sick and he was going to sweat and he had to go under cars and he had to get burnt and he had to get injured. When my dad dreaded those days, he showed up time after time. And I can imagine that every single successful person that is out there will tell you tons and tons of stories of the fact that they struggled to be able to accomplish the goals that they want. That they had days where they didn't want to show up, where everything was failing, but they continued being there. It's about great. It's about showing up every single time. And I'm not going to get tired of saying it, because the reality is that people that are not consistent are people that will never accomplish their goals. Or better said, most people that accomplish their goals will always show up no matter the price it costs, no matter how hard their day is, no matter how tired they are. The fact of the matter is that no one is going to save you. In my father's case, I think about the reality of him being a Hispanic and immigrant in this country and having no one that was going to give him a way out, having no mechanic friends in this area that were going to give him a job, having to show up to shops day after day, morning after morning, rejection after rejection, to be able to get a position and become a mechanic within someone's shop. The fact of the matter is that if you're waiting for someone to save you, then you're going to continue sitting there with your arms crossed until you become a skeleton, because no one is coming to save you. Well, I, as a believer that I am, I believe that there is a God that saves us, but no one is going to save you, economically speaking. No one is going to give you a job if you're just sitting there. And that is a biblical principle. So I go back and I say what I said before. My father showed up time after time. And if you're willing to do that, then you will accomplish much more in life. If you're a 25-year-old like me that is just sitting in your house after work, doing nothing and expecting to be able to travel the world and be successful and have wealth and be the next Andrew Tate and be the next Alex Hormozy and be the next person that is able to accomplish all these things, if that is what you're waiting for, if you're sitting there after work and spending all your time after work because you're tired, sitting down watching TV, then you know what? That's as far as you're going to get. The reality is that people that make it somewhere don't make the excuse of being tired. They make the excuse of, I'm tired, yeah. But you know what? I have to be there. I have to be there. I have to show up. I have to be consistent. Think it's easy coming out of work, getting home, having to spend time with my kids, and then after that, having to go ahead and work on this business stuff. There's tons of times where I've said, no, I want to give up. But you know what? Showing up time after time and not waiting for anyone to save me and anyone to build the things I have to build. It is in my hands how far this gets. It is in no one else's hands. It is not anyone out there that could possibly save me. I don't want thousands or millions of dollars gifted to me. I want to be able to accomplish this. I want to be able to get there and say that I got there by my own works. And in the end of the day, hey man, once I'm there, if you want to give me a big gift, then sure, be my guest. But I want to be able to get there. I want to be able to say that I got there because I worked for it, because God supported me. So the fact of the matter is that no one is coming to save you. No one. No one is going to give you a way out and take you out of the situation you're in. You need to get up out of the couch. You need to get up out of your bed. You need to get up out of whatever situation you're in and show up and put in the work. And let me be clear here. There's another reality that people don't like to admit in all of this. Let me expand on this a bit. Grinding and working hard isn't always going to be from a tower that's on the 30th floor at the last top floor of the building that you're in. No. Working hard sometimes is going to mean you're going to be sweeping the floor before you get anywhere. Working hard sometimes, like my story, is going to be that you're 16 years old and sweating bullets and then having to have your hands full of grease and having to deal with these situations. Working hard means like my dad's story where he had to go around begging for a position to be able to prove himself to someone, to be able to have a few minutes to prove that he can do the work. And many times, he had to be an employee before he became an employer. So if you want to be able to accomplish things, be willing to put in the work, but not at the topest tower, but from the bottom floor, from the basement. Be able to have to deal with whatever it means that you have to deal with to be able to get to where you want to get to. Show up, grind, but show up not being entitled, expecting to be at the tippity top floor in the building that you live or in the building that you work in. Realize that sometimes there's going to be a pride in the grind, that sometimes there's going to be some levels of being humble and being willing to be able to be in that place. I love Alex Hormozi's story, where he talks about launching his gym, where he talks about the corporate job he had and finally accomplishing what everyone wants to accomplish, but and then he had dropped everything to launch a gym, and not only that, he slept on the floor in his gym to be able to get to where he gets to now. And if you look up Alex Hormozi, he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. These guys are no joke. But why? Because they had pride in the grind. They loved the grind, but they also loved those moments, and maybe they didn't love it completely, like and talk with it with so much. Oh, I wish I could be there, but they talk about it in a way like this is my story. I have pride in the grind that I had, and I was willing to sleep on the floor to be able to accomplish things that I accomplished. I'll go back to my story when I was 16 years old working in the mechanic shop with my dad, Santos Auto Repair today. And one of the things that I realized from doing that was I never really stopped working after that. I had maybe a period of a few months when I was studying that I stopped working, and maybe I had part-times and no longer full-times. But one of the things I began to realize was that I never stopped working after that because I loved this aspect of me. I had this aspect of me that at the time I didn't know it. But I always had this aspect to me that had to work, and I had to work, and I had to work. And I'll be honest, as much as my dad's a grinder, there's natures of him that are a bit lazy. And I have that same aspect to me. So I always thought to myself, I'm a pretty lazy person. But you know what's one of the things I realized at this point, not even too long ago, is that my work ethic and my mentality of working hard has always been there. It's just I had to shift. I had to pivot. I had to look at it from a different angle. And yes, sometimes I do like to sit down and watch TV. Sometimes I do like to sit down and scroll on social media. And sometimes I do get caught in being lazy. But you know what? In those moments where I realize that, I say, you know what? No, I gotta get up. I gotta do something. I gotta begin to limit this, because if I don't limit this, I'm not gonna get nowhere. I had to pivot. I had to begin to do these things, and now I've become much better at it, and I know I will become better at it. But if I go back 2 years ago, I wasn't the best at it. I was wasting tons of time. I was treating this business as if it was a side gig, and that's where it started. It began as a financial coaching side gig, and then eventually it became a business that I wanted to start. And then it started beginning to pivot, and I began to realize, you know what? I want to do this with this. I realized things about myself where I've been able to grow so much in just months of starting this. Again, my entrepreneurial journey hasn't been super long, but one thing I will tell you, when you are beginning to build a business, when you are starting something with your own hands, you'll realize so much about yourself, and you'll grow so fast because you are challenging yourself actively day after day. If you're someone that takes it serious, you are consistently showing up no matter how tired you are. And you're consistently showing up realizing that the limiting factor in your business many times is you. So I had to grow in these aspects, and I had to become more intelligent and develop wisdom in these aspects. And I imagine in the same aspect with my father, where he's began his business and he's been able to bring up his business little by little. He's definitely hit a ceiling, which in his personal aspect is, I've talked about it before, this culture, and maybe these are excuses, but the fact of the matter is, now something I'm doing for my father is I'm bringing in what I know, the technology that I understand, and I'm helping him bring this business to another level. Intelligence plus work ethic will always lead you to success. So have the work ethic, have the grind mentality, but also be willing to invest in yourself and learn more and more. Something I love about Alex Hormozi, he says, the best tool that you can invest in is yourself. And I believe that firmly. If you're willing to invest in yourself, you are willing to be able to learn more. And if you're willing to learn more and you're willing to work, you will succeed in due time. Put in the work, but also don't forget those people that implanted in you and that planted in you a seed of the work ethic that you have today. Who's the person that taught you your work ethic? In my case, it's my father. I've talked a ton about it, but tell me, who are the people that have impacted your story? Who are the people that have impacted the work ethic you've had? Put a comment below, give it a like, give it a subscribe if you want to learn more about my entrepreneurial journey and be able to grow in your personal aspect in your entrepreneurial journey as we develop this together. So I'm so happy that you are able to hear this and you're able to get to this point. Remember, put the comments below, and if you want to reach out to me, you can comment, DM, or you can send me a message looking up my website, santosfinancialstrategy.com. There's formats of contacting me there for more information. So again, don't forget, your path to freedom is here. It is now. It is today. But are you willing to put in the work, and are you willing to invest in yourself?